Welcome back to the Lame Average Gamer. Today we'll be tasting the GTX 970 in PUBG. So what we've got at the moment is the game is running at 1080p, and if we have a look at our settings, the render scale this time is at 100. If you remember my previous video, I made a mistake and left it at 70, and then we are just using the high preset. We'll be tasting at 1080p, 1440p, and 4K. The taste system is a 12400F with a DDR4 3200 MHz CL16 memory. And that's about it, so let's get right into it. Alright, we finally made it into the game. As I said previously, I have very little experience with PUBG. I don't really play PUBG. I play Warzone when it comes to battle royale games. So I'm just going to drop in a location and we're just going to do some runarounds and see what the FPS is like. If you have a look at the top left hand corner there, you'll see that we've got all our metrics. We've got the GPU, temperature, usage, clock speed, power consumption, as well as voltage. Then we've got our VRAM usage or VRAM allocation. Just remember that the VRAM allocation shown there might be different from the VRAM used. The VRAM used is usually quite a little bit less. And then we've also got our memory clock speed on the GPU. Then we have our CPU performance numbers there. We are currently sitting at about 50 degrees Celsius at 20% CPU usage, and the all-core frequency of this 12400F is 4 GHz. Then we also have 16 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 MHz memory, as mentioned earlier. Then we've got the frame rate, the averages, the 1% low, and the 0.1% lows as well. Right, so now that we're on the ground, now we are just going to reset these numbers. We also have the frame time graph at the bottom there, and that'll show us if there are any stuttering. As you can see there was one. I am rather going to play this in first person mode. Right, so here we are in some mining area, I believe. There's quite a few buildings here, and we are getting about 80 frames per second. We did see quite a few stutters, and you can see that the 1% low or the 0.1% low number is actually very low. Sorry if I have to repeat myself, but if for those of you who don't know what the 1% and 0.1% low numbers mean, for the 1% low number, you are guaranteed to have that or higher frames per second for 99% of the time. And the same goes for the 0.1% lows. You would have that or higher for 99.9% of the time. So if there is a huge discrepancy between the average and the lows, then you would know that you don't get a very consistent, smooth gameplay experience. The map is quite huge as well. And funny enough, if we are inside, we actually get just above 60 frames per second. But once we venture outside, that almost doubles. Now that's pretty strange. I mean, sure, this is pretty barren if you look in the distance, but usually for these big games, you'd actually have higher frames per second inside. Right, this is at 1080p with the high quality or very high quality preset. There's no enemies around here, so I can't show you what it'll look like if we are actually fighting, but I'm just going to go ahead and adjust the quality settings a little bit. Let's see if we can get to that magical 144 frames per second number. I mean, to acquire that, we would actually need to double our frame rates or just look up in the sky. Right, so the graphical quality setting is at high at the moment, so let's reduce that to low. And looking up at the sky, we are getting 170 frames per second. Looking in the distance, we are almost at about 120. But I guess the real test is if we are inside. And this is quite a lot better. We are close to 100 frames per second. I'm just going to reset the numbers there. So inside, we've gone from 60 to 100. That's a very nice performance bump. And also outside, you are now able to play this game on a high refresh rate monitor and actually take advantage of it. Oh, come on. So if you pick up a gun, you have to actually reload it first before you can shoot. Guns come with no ammo, apparently. There is somebody there, but not sure if I'll be able to hit him or her. Oh, once again, trying to shoot and nothing happens because we don't have bullets in the chamber. And I'm guessing this person is just going to try and run me over or come and shoot me. Well, that was quite easy. I mean, I made it look easy. It wasn't that easy. All right, but there was actually a gunfight, and we won the gunfight. We did have quite a big dip in the frame rate there. We got down to 30 frames per second for the 0.1% low number. That's not ideal, but when it comes to these massive maps for online shooters, it is actually inevitable. All of these shooters do have quite a bit of stuttering, especially if you move around the map and new areas need to load in. All right, but there you have it at 1080p with the quality preset set to low. You can actually play this game at a high enough frame rate to take advantage of your high refresh rate monitors. And the game doesn't look too bad, too terrible at 1080p low. And this is something that I would be comfortable playing at. All right, but enough of that. Let's see what this card can do at 1440p. All right, so we're at 1440p, back to the high preset, and I'm not sure, the textures definitely don't look fully loaded to me. There's now quite a lot of screen tearing happening as well. I'm playing on a 165 hertz monitor here, and dropping below 50, which is definitely not ideal. I also kind of forgot that the circle closes, so I'm just going to run towards safety here. Right, so we did get an average of about 60 frames per second outside anyway. Once again, when we move around inside, the frame rate drops quite a lot. So if you are planning to play at 1440p, then make sure all your battles happen outside. Right, this was still on the high preset, so let's just lower that. Right, we just reset our numbers here. We are now on 1440p at the low preset. And once again, we gained about 30 frames per second. We went up from about 60 to about 90. And this is actually pretty good. The input latency reduction is definitely noticeable, going from 60 to 90. And all in all, the game actually plays pretty well. Please note, I said the game plays pretty well, not the player. Don't confuse those two. Although, oops, looking at these videos, you probably won't make that mistake. I am actually quite impressed. I mean, this is an 8-year-old graphics card, and it's doing quite okay. It's not such a modern title, but definitely more modern than what the GPU is. And for an 8-year-old card to still be doing about 90 frames per second at 1440p, that's definitely acceptable. Right, but I guess the real test would be at 4K, and let's see if this card can do it. Okay, we're at 4K, but we are still on the low preset. People started shooting at me, and also the ring is closing, so I'm just going to see if I can get to safety. But I think it's definitely more acceptable to try and play this at 4K low than at high. I don't think we'll see 30 frames per second at 4K high, but we'll give it a shot just now anyway, just to see what it does, and then we'll move back to 4K low. As you can see there in the top left-hand corner, if I just clear the metrics, I'm playing with the 185 millisecond ping. It's because I'm in South Africa and we don't have local servers here. So as much as I would like to blame the frame rate for poor performance when I'm playing this game, the latency to the servers actually has a much bigger impact. Right, so once again, we are inside. This is not even a very detailed building, but the frame rate drops below 30 every now and again. It's, I mean, we couldn't possibly expect this card to be able to play at 4K, but to be able to do it at 30 frames per second is actually definitely commendable. All right, let's see what happens if we put it on a 4K high. Okay, so we're at 4K high, and we dropped about 10 frames per second. That's just inside. Now, if we move outside, I mean, this is definitely not terrible. I'd not be able to play like this, but to be able to maintain 30 frames per second, almost. almost 30 frames per second at 4K high. It needs to be said, it's quite impressive. You won't play this game at 4K, even with a very high-end graphics card, unless you've got a 4090. The whole aim of competitive shooters like this is to have as low input latency as you can get, and obviously the higher the frame rate, the lower your input latency. But I must say that at 4K high, the game looks extremely detailed. Definitely wasn't expecting that, and I'm pretty sure I won't be able to hit anybody. The input lag is just it's just not good. I mean, I think I am hitting this person. And he hit me. Well, and on that note, I think we are going to leave it there. So we got almost 30 frames per second average on, sorry, I hit it there, on 4K high, which is impressive, but not playable. So if you've got a GTX 970, I would suggest you play at 1080p low. And the game is not going to look its greatest, but it's going to perform at its best. Alright, and that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, we hope to see you in the next one.